Hi there, welcome to live stream Yoga with Louise, tips and cues to keep you safe and strong on the mat. Today's yoga class is all about romancing oneself, and it's more than just self-love, it's more than just self-confidence. It's something that becomes so ingrained, so beautiful that it shines out and becomes infectious to others. As always, play where you're comfortable, modify where you need to, and rest as often as need be. You ready? Let's hit the mat. We're going to set up for today's class, standing more or less in the middle of the mat, and you're going to just peek down towards your toes. Give me a nice parallel stance, maybe your feet stacking underneath your hips. Tuck your tailbone under, pull your belly button in, and drop the arms long and heavy at your side. Look for a sense of energy traveling down into the mat through your feet, maybe through the tips of your fingertips, and at the same time a lengthening that's happening through the spine and the crown up towards the sky. Begin to gently sway your weight forwards and backwards. At first, try to keep both feet firmly planted into the mat and just shift the weight between the balls of your feet and the heels of your feet, starting to find a gentle squeeze or a coming together of energy between the inner thighs and a soft little pull-up from your pelvic floor towards your waistline. Then start to change the movement slightly. Come up onto your toes, heels peeling up off the floor. And then as you re-ground through your heels, see if you can lift the toes off the mat and start to play on the heels and the toes, rocking the weight forwards and backwards. If you need to, you can lean your fingertips into a wall or maybe a piece of furniture. Aim for me standing up nice and tall. Arms are heavy at your side. Find a beautiful mountain, Tadasana, and on an exhale, you're going to hinge forward from the waist. You're going to come into a tabletop line and you're going to dangle your fingertips down towards the floor. Try to give me a nice long tabletop. So watch that you're not rounding out your back or hollowing out your back. Give me a nice tabletop line. Pretend that you're balancing a teacup and a saucer on your back. And then start to play dynamically between mountain, your standing frame, and your tabletop frame with those arms long and dangly towards the floor. Start with your feet in parallel, and then as the body starts to warm up, I want you to surreptitiously start walking the feet in closer and closer along the midline so that you're getting more of a stretch up along the back chain of the legs. You're going to give yourself at least 10 rounds here, oscillating between your tabletop frame and your mountain. Every now and then starting to walk those feet in just a little bit closer, a little bit closer. Starting to connect to the essence of you and who you are right now in this moment. Not judging it, loving and accepting oneself. Then enter that tabletop line and start to trace long, lazy, dangly circles with the arms. You can either keep the feet flush along the midline of the body, or if you find that this is too much, you can open up the legs into parallel. Now change up your circle and trace in the opposite direction. From here, we're going to find our way into a haunch line. Your haunch line is either close along the midline of the body or feet open in parallel if you prefer. I've got a nice narrow haunch, so my feet and my knees are flush along the midline of the body. Place your fingertips on the mat and think of hugging your knees in towards your chest so that you come up really high on the heels and then relax back to hovering just off the floor. So a little haunch knee hug. Drawing your knees in towards your nose. starting to connect a little bit more aggressively into the core. So think of making almost a shrimp-like shape with your body. Then find your way from here into a seated frame on the mat. Set yourself up in staff pose, Dandasana, sitting up nice and tall. And you can open up your legs for me so that they hip width distance apart. Make sure that you're sitting up nice and tall. No Quasimodo on the mat. So if you need to lift your bum cheeks off the mat, sit up nice and tall, ground through your bum bones. Start with your shoulders stacked over your hips and float the arms out in front, palms looking into the center line, and try to keep your hands in line with your shoulders. So as we begin to move, try not to drop your hands. You're going to give me an L lean forward and an L lean back, and you're going to use that movement dynamically. Exhaling as you come forward, inhaling as you go back. You're going to give me 10 little seesaws forwards and backwards. From here, you're going to set up a tabletop line. Drop your hands to the mat. You can maybe fist them, or you can keep fingertips forwards or fingertips backward. I'm going to play with a little fisted line today. Bend your knees, draw them in towards your bottom. Float your belly up to the sky. Pause here in your tabletop line. If you need to, you can take a little rock backwards and forwards. And then come to stillness. Peel your way back down and come straight into your little seesaw movement for 10. When you're ready, you're going to find your way into your tabletop hold, draping your hands to the mat, and you can pick your hand position, either fingertips looking towards the top end of the mat, fingertips looking towards the back end of the mat, or a fisted line, or you can mix it up and change the hand position on each round. Find your seesaw. Building up a little bit of heat energy in the body. Find your way into your tabletop hold, pausing, floating your belly and your hips up towards the sky, trying to keep the weight bearing equal on your arms and your legs with your chin relaxed and in neutral, so don't throw the head back and put any strain on the back of your neck. Find your way back into your seesaw movement. Last tabletop hold, picking the hand position of your choice and trying to hold maybe for a soft count of 5 or 10. Make those glutes work, make those legs work. Bring it softly back down to the mat. And as you reconnect to the mat, give me fingertips looking away from you and give me an alternating knee drop side to side. Drop the knees gently to one side while you peek over the opposite shoulder and just give yourself a few recovery breaths. Last one. We're going to find our way from here into a down dog frame. Sweep the legs underneath you. Find your way to 4-point kneeling on the mat. Tuck your toes under and ease your way into a down dog frame. If the back chain of your legs is really tight, settle into your down dog by giving me a slow forward pedaling motion, bending one knee and extending the other leg, and progressively trying to anchor down through the back chain of the extended leg. So think heel to floor. Keep your belly button softly pulled into center as you find your way into Adho Mukha Svanasana, down dog. Then hold the down dog stretch for me, giving yourself a couple of gentle breaths here, forging almost a triangular frame between the front and the back chain of your body. Trying to pike the bum up as high as you can towards the sky, while keeping your belly button softly pulled into center and almost feeding your head through your arms as if you wanted to tap your nose to your knees. Keep that belly button softly pulled into center while you play. We're going to find our way from here into a low lunge line on the right. So when you're ready, maybe softly bend the right knee, kick it up behind you into a three-legged dog, maybe giving me a nice brace, or you could play with a soft toe line if you prefer. You're going to lunge that back leg forward. So you're going to think knee to nose, maybe coming onto the tips of your fingers to give yourself space. Step the leg between the two hands, flush or close towards the right arm. Relax the back, knee, shin, and foot. Then bring your hands into prayer mudra in front of you, but cross at the thumbs. And extend your modified prayer position overhead. So it almost feels like you're trying to tuck your prayer hands behind your head. So you're getting a nice little stretch into the shoulders, a nice bit of work into the chest and the arms. And you're going to lengthen your crown towards the sky. So you're not collapsing in through the hips. You're almost pushing off your lead leg and trying to lean the weight slightly back as you come to your modified crescent lunge, Anyanye Asana. Take a few deep breaths here. And then we're going to use this lunge line to set up a modified triangle. So when you're ready, you're going to tuck the back toe under, bring the knee up off the floor, and then you're going to gently anchor that back leg in at 45. Bring your top hand down so that you're resting softly on your shin bone, but try not to push or press into the shin. Rather focus on lengthening through your top arm as you find a modified triangle, Uttita Trikonasana. Keep your belly button softly pulled into center as you hold that triangular line. Radiate that strength out. And then try to bleed your way from here into a high lunge line, floating both hands behind you. So you start to pivot on the back leg as you bend the lead leg, tuck the back toe under, float the hands behind you, and see if you can fist the two hands behind you, or maybe even come to Jupiter Mudra, interlacing your fisted hands, bringing the index fingers together and crossing at the thumb. Nice high lunge line. Uttita Ashwa Sanshalasana. If you need to, you could always drop to that back knee if you find that the high lunge line is too much for you. We're going to ease our way from here into a little balancing challenge in half moon. Unclip the hands from behind you. Place the right hand on the floor in front of you. Launch off the back leg. Use the toes of the back leg if you need to push up, transferring all your weight to the front leg, and then give me a slight rotation on the top hip so that it feels like you're stacking the top hip over the bottom hip. Maybe opening up the arms into a soft, almost T-like frame on the mat. You're going to find your way from here into a half camel rise. So when you're ready, start to bend the lead leg, step back, and as your back leg connects to the mat, think of coming into a kneeling frame on the back leg. You can either give me a relaxed foot or you can tuck the toe under, and you're going to step the lead leg back, bringing it in line with the back leg. So you've got more or less heel and knee in a straight line. You're going to bring your right hand to the inside of the knee, and you're going to support your back on the left, either fingertips down or fingertips up as you come into a little half camel stretch. Ardha Ustrasana. Keep supporting your back on the left and keep gently opening up through your hips on the right. Then gently come out of your half camel, morphing into a full camel, bringing yourself into a high kneeling frame. Let's support the lower back on both sides today as you try to bump your hips softly forward over your knees. Almost think of curving your spine around an imaginary ball and give it a nice little stretch into the lower belly center, keeping your neckline in neutral as you come into the full camel. Then come into a high kneeling frame, dropping the arms at your side, and take a little lunge step forward, but step your leg out to the side of the room, splaying your foot slightly out at 45. Drop or anchor through your hands stacking underneath your shoulders, and lean forward over your wrist line. Stay here as if you were trying to hook your chin over the edge of your mat, or you can morph into a beautiful radiating, twisting lizard, throwing that top arm back and opening up as much as you can through your heart center. Stay here, or maybe look for an opportunity to come into a little bind by taking your middle index finger and thumb, like a little crab pincer, and reaching for the big toe on the back leg. If you need to, as you bend the back leg, you can bump your weight slightly back just to connect to the big toe. Once you've found that connection, start bumping your hips forward again, coming back into your lizard bind, trying to hold on to the big toe of the back leg. Keep radiating and opening up through that top shoulder as you find your big toe, your Padangusthasana lock. Give yourself at least 5 relaxed breaths here before you think about finding your way into a seated spinal twist. Relax that back leg. You're going to sit your weight back so that you're sitting to the outside of your back foot. You're going to take your front leg, cross it over your front knee. You're going to hook your left elbow to the outside of your right knee, maybe giving you a nice reach through that arm. And then you're just going to use the fingertips of your other arm to gently support your frame. So think nice little spider fingertips on the mat behind you. Make sure that both of your bum bones are grounded into the mat and that you've got your whole front foot firmly anchored into the mat as you come into your twisted frame. Give yourself a couple of nice deep inhalations and exhalations here. In your half Lord of the Fishes. And then when you're ready, you're going to unbind your legs. You're going to think of coming into a seated child pose or a modified thunderbolt if you like. Big toes together, knees are softly splayed out, and you're sitting back, bum to heel. So you're getting a little bit of conditioning into the tops of your feet. And you're either going to stay here with the hands on the top of your thighs and just take a couple of nice deep breaths here, trying to expand the rib cage in 4 dimensions on the inhale. Or you can bring it into a beautiful little heart opening pose by maybe dropping your fingertips back to the floor behind you, maybe pushing off your fingertips and trying to float your chest, your throat, and your third eye up to the sky. Give yourself a few glorious breaths here. Focusing on nice, beautiful, deep inhalations. When you're ready to come out of your heart opening pose, you're going to bleed your way down into child pose. Maybe slowly walking the arms out. You can either drape your forearms and your palms softly on the mat, or you can look for an opportunity to walk your arms out, maybe just balancing on the tips of your spider fingers and getting a nice little stretch into the shoulders and the arms while breathing nice and deeply into the back of your ribs. Maybe closing the eyes, taking the focus inward. Getting to know oneself just a little bit. Lead your way from here back into 4-point kneeling. So think of squaring up through the knees and find your way back into your down dog. Maybe taking that slow pedal. Don't rush it. Anchor through one foot, bend through the other. Give that extended leg an opportunity to really open up. Maybe you can even play with it. Once you've anchored that foot to the mat, see if you can anchor through the heel, but bring the toes up off the mat. So replicating that work we did right at the beginning of the class. So all the weight is in the heels, and you're trying to lift all 5 metatarsals on that foot off the mat. So changing up the stretch slightly. Nice slow pedals. Then ease your way into your down dog and hold it. Look towards your feet. If the body's willing, lift all 10 metatarsals off the mat, all the weight coming down through the heels and the back chain of your legs. You're going to feel those calves. You're going to feel the Achilles. Keep your belly button tightly pulled into center. When you're ready, You're going to find your way into a low lunge line from here. So begin softening the left knee. Maybe kick up that leg behind you, either brace or soft toe in the leg. You're going to swing through. Find your lunge line, relax the back knee, shin, and foot. Find your way to a modified prayer position, crossing the thumbs, and then trying to bring that prayer position behind your head. So you're almost thinking of somebody standing behind you, grabbing hold of your hands and starting to pull your prayer hands towards the back edge of the mat. So you're really opening up through the chest and getting an awesome stretch into the arms as you come into your modified low lunge Anyanya Asana. Give yourself a few glorious breaths here. And then think about how you're going to get yourself into a triangle line from here. You're going to tuck the back toe under, bring the knee up off the floor, and then anchor the back foot in at 45. Start to extend the front leg. Unbind your hands and drop the lead hand to the shin on the lead leg and just open up into a modified triangle. Try not to lean aggressively down. So you're thinking of growing your top arm up towards the ceiling and trying to slightly pivot on the hips as if you were trying to stack the top hip on the bottom hip. Stay here in your triangle or look for an opportunity to come to a little balancing challenge in half moon. Maybe bending your lead leg, pushing off your back leg, use your toes if you need to. Start to float up. Keep that pivot on the back hip so you're stacking the top hip on the bottom hip and you're really opening up through your whole body. Give yourself a couple of moments here to find your balance, to come into oneself. And then you're going to ease yourself from here into a half camel line. So start bending the lead leg. As you step back, think of that soft lunge line that you played with. Find it and then step your lead leg back. Finding your way into half camel, you can either tuck your back toe under or you can relax the foot as you come into your half camel stretch, pulling the left knee open with the left hand and trying to arc beautifully through the spine, opening up through your chest, your throat, and your third eye. Then maybe come into a full camel expression, maybe toes tucked under this time as you support your lower back, giving a beautiful little bit of stretch into the arches of your feet as you find your full Ustrasana camel. From here, you're going to find your way into that little lizard line. So you're going to take a little step out to the side of the room, placing both hands underneath your shoulders. You're going to open up beautifully into your twisted lizard. Or you're going to look for an opportunity to take your middle index finger and thumb, like a little crab pincer. You're going to bend that back leg. You can bump your hips back slightly if you need to, just to find that connection to the big toe first. Then bring your weight forward again and try to keep that big toe locked. You can either actively kick the foot into your hand or you can relax and bring it into your toe. I'm doing a little kick back today. Maybe even knife edge the front foot if you'd like to feel more work on that lead quad. Hold your twist. And then from here, you're going to find your way into your half lord of the fishes. So when you're ready, relax that back leg. You're going to sit to the inside of the back leg and you're going to wrap your, to the outside, and you're going to wrap your front leg around that front knee. Make sure you wiggle your bottom foot out the way, make space for both of your bum bones, then twist towards your lead leg, maybe hooking your elbow on the outside of the knee, and then begin to extend through the arm. Try to reach long through your fingertips as if you were trying to touch the top end of your mat. Give yourself a couple of deep breaths here. Trying to lengthen through the spine as best you can. Making that left whole bum bone nice and heavy to the mat so that you can feel that drop down on the left side. You're going to ease your way into your modified child thunderbolt, hybrid. All right, when you're ready, start uncrossing your trunk. Bring the two big toes together, open up the knees softly, splaying them out and trying to sit back on your heels. Just take a moment here to get a sense of, is the weight even through your shoulders and your hips? Maybe just resting the hands on the top of your thighs and giving yourself a couple of deep breaths here. Think of the rib cage expanding out in 4 dimensions on the inhalation and then gently collapsing in towards the midline on the exhale. Maybe you'd like to reach your fingertips back towards the floor behind you, almost curving through the spine, giving a little bit more opening through your chest center. Give yourself a couple of deep breaths here. And then when you're ready, you're going to ease your way into child pose. Maybe begin by just softly sliding out the arms on the mat in front of you. At first, maybe relaxing into the forearms, the wrists and the palms. And then maybe taking the stretch and making it a little bit more active. Starting to come right onto the tips of your fingers. Pushing off your fingers and getting a nice little stretch into the shoulders, the back, the arms, the chest. From here, we're going to change our orientation on the mat and we're going to find our way into a seated frame. Maybe thinking of slightly drawing your spider fingertips back, tucking your toes under, taking a little hop forward, crossing the feet behind you, and coming into a butterfly line. But today, I'd like you to find a little toe lock with your butterfly. Taking your middle index finger and thumb, bind around the big toe of each foot. Bring the two soles of the feet as close together along the midline of the body as you can. Almost think of pulling your big toes up to the sky at the same time, trying to keep the heels of your feet and the balls of your feet as close together as you can, and make the knees heavy to the floor while your spine is reaching tall for the ceiling. At first, you're sitting on both bum seats, so you're sitting up nice and tall. Then try to morph your line into a boat line. So tip the weight off your tailbone, float your feet off the mat if you can, and hold. Your gaze is maybe just softly on the wall in front of you. If this feels good, see if you can keep the toe lock on the right and extend the leg out to the side of the room. If that's not possible, maybe just open up and use your hand as a crook to support the weight of your knee. Then bring the leg back and try the same on the other side. The whole time your eye is just softly trained on that focal point. So you need to really bring that focus inward. Now see if you can open up both legs into a little V line and hold. Keeping that big toe lock if you can, with that nice little L lean backwards, and you zip it up from the pelvic floor all the way to your waistline. Now bring the two legs flush along the midline of the body if you can and hold. So you are in a narrow bound boat Navasana, Pada Navasana. Now let go of the toes, reach long through your fingertips, and using your core, you're going to bring those legs down as softly as you can, not a sound. Then fold forward, reaching for your big toes again if you can. Flare your elbows out towards the side of the room as you think knee to nose. And if the back chain of your legs is really tight, you can give me an alternating bend and extend through the legs until the back chain of your legs is released enough and your lower back is released enough to come into a bound Paschimottanasana. Give yourself a couple of breaths here, breathing nice and deep into the back of your ribs. And then bending the legs one at a time, draw back into your bound butterfly. Then balls and heels of the feet closely together, almost tugging the toes up to the sky, and lengthen through your spine, ground down through your bum bones, make your kneecaps heavy to the floor. Keeping that length through the spine, tip the weight off your tailbone, and find your floating butterfly line. Open up one leg, keep it there. See if you can open up the other one. Keep it there. Use your abdominals, so keep drawing up from the pelvic floor towards the waistline. Now bring the two legs together and hold. Let go of your toes. See if you can bring them down as whisper softly as you can and come straight into your big toe, Paschimottanasana. Thinking of relaxing on the exhale. Breathe as deeply as you can into the back and the sides of your ribs while holding the forward fold with your big toe lock, allowing your elbows to softly track out to the side of the room. Now see if you can come into your bound butterfly, drawing both legs up simultaneously and coming straight into your floating butterfly line. So every time, try to exert just a little bit more control over yourself, over your body. Maybe this time opening up both legs simultaneously and coming straight into your V boat line. Bringing the legs together. Maybe this time keeping the big toe lock as you come down to the floor. You might find a little bit more of a plop as you come down. Hold the forward fold, giving yourself a couple of deep breaths here. And then feet up into a nice high seat, keeping the feet together, maybe bending at the elbows, placing the elbows on the floor behind you, and then begin to lift the legs off the mat and hold. Pushing softly off your forearms, weight tipped off the tailbone, double leg lift and hold, core working nice and hard to hold the frame. Maybe look for an opportunity to come into fish Matsyasana from here. Relax your legs to the mat. Tuck the tips of your fingers just underneath your bottom. And then maybe drag your bum over your hands so that your palms are more or less in the middle of your bum. And then think of curving through the spine, trying to connect your crown to the mat behind you, or you can bring the hands out from underneath you, feet together, hands in prayer, or you can find that modified prayer we played with earlier on, with the palms together but your thumbs crossed, and you can tap those hands to the mat behind you. Finding fish Matsyasana, either playing freestyle sans hands or using your elbows and your forearms to support your frame. Give yourself a couple of deep breaths here. And then when you're ready to come out, find your way back onto the forearms. Load your chin to your chest and then softly bring your whole back line back down to the mat. We're going to come into a bridge line. Bend your knees, connect the soles of the feet. We'll try to come into a bound bridge today. Start in neutral spine, then tilt your pelvis to the 12 o'clock position. Start peeling up into your bridge line, and as soon as you reach the apex of your bridge, maybe float the two hands together, bringing the two shoulder blades even closer together as you draw the two palms flush along the midline of the body. Pike your hips up nice and high to the sky, and give yourself a couple of deep recovery breaths. Keep your chin nodded softly towards your chest. Look for strength. Maybe take your focus inward. Then unbind the hands. Open up the shoulder blades first and peel your way softly back down to the mat. As soon as you've reconnected to the mat, maybe hug your knees softly in towards your chest. Gently cradle, rocking your lower back out. And find your way into corpse pose by dropping the arms at your side at about 45. Tap your big toes to the mat. Begin to extend your legs. And as they come to full extension, flop the big toes out to the corner of the mat, finding a soft, almost starfish-like frame. Give me a little release through the ankles, maybe tracing a little circular pattern through the ankles. Then relaxing the legs and maybe focusing on your hands, giving me a little starburst through your fingertips. And then stopping or ending with your hands softly open, but the fingers are softly curling into the center line. Lift your shoulder blades off the mat, tuck them like little wings behind you. Then settle the whole weight of your body into the mat and start to reach big toe to big toe. So reach long through the right big toe, long through the leg, almost getting a little wiggle and a release into your hips. Then still the legs and start moving the top portion of your trunk side to side. Come to stillness along the midline of the body. Reach long through your fingertips, both hands reaching simultaneously, almost coming off your back, and then relaxing your whole back line into the mat. Close your eyes. Take your focus inward. And give yourself a couple of deep recovery breaths. Focusing on a nice lazy exhale. And on the exhale, soften from your toes all the way to your waistline. From your waistline all the way through the top of your chest down towards your fingertips. From your fingertips towards your neckline and your crown line. Softening, relaxing, and releasing. Giving yourself a few quiet moments here, taking your focus inward. And when you're ready, you're going to use a little spinal roll to find your way back into a seated frame. If rolling is not for you, you can just gently roll onto the side of your body into a fetal pose and then come to a seat of your choice. Maybe tucking into a tight little ball, bracing around your shins or maybe behind the top of your thighs and back of your thighs. You're going to gently rock the weight up and down. Maybe giving yourself 4 or 5 rocks. And then bleeding into a seated frame of your choice. I'm going to come into Thunderbolt, Vajrasana, knees together, feet together, sitting back. Maybe you'd like to come into a half seat, a half lotus seat, or a full Sukhasana. And you're going to relax the back of your hands to the top of your thighs. Coming into Gyun Mudra by bringing your index finger and your thumb together. Relaxing the back of your hands into the mat. And we're going to work with a little bit of breath work, Bhastrika breath. You're going to think of, every time you inhale, I want you to think of taking your lower abdominals and almost tucking them underneath your rib cage. So it's a contraction and an almost squeeze of the air out, making a little pumping breath that sounds something like this. So you're inhaling and exhaling through the nose, the mouth is closed, and you're pumping. On the exhale, you're going to give me between 15 to 20 pumps in one round. Then you're going to take at least 3 or 4 recovery breaths, and we're going to do 4 rounds of Bhastrika breath in your own time. When you're ready, close your eyes, take your focus in. Take at least 2 or 3 deep recovery breaths, inhaling and exhaling through both nostrils equally before you begin your next round of Bhastrika Pranayama, bellows breath. Last round of Bastrika. Take your 3 or 4 recovery breaths. Maybe keeping your eyes and your focus inward. You're going to place your hands palms down over your heart, overlaying one palm on top of the other. Giving yourself a little bit of love. And then beginning to morph from this position into Lotus Mudra. Bring the heels of your palms together, pinkies touching, palms touching, the rest of the fingertips looking up towards the sky. And then float your Lotus Mudra overhead and present it to the ceiling. You're going to play with that movement dynamically. Starting to drop down through the elbows, bringing your palms to your chest, overlaying one hand on top of the other. Loving yourself. And then presenting that love to the universe in your Lotus Mudra. You're going to do that maybe 3 or 4 times. Finding a soft, gentle rhythm of your own. Romancing yourself first. Being totally in love and confident within yourself. And then reflecting that love out to the universe. Making that love of yourself, that being oneness with yourself, so infectious to all those around you. Ending, presenting up nice and high. Namaste. Thank you so much for coming out. Hope you enjoyed today's class. Until we meet again on the mat, keep it light.